All right, mic is on, mic check, and we are live. Thank you so much for joining Tetron Live. Running it back tonight. Always good to be here. Always good to have you guys. Much appreciated for those of you that are watching consistently. Even when you're watching here and there, I still very much appreciate you. And just building brick by brick, just like GameStop. Let's see if this looks a little better. Let's get situated here. Yeah, that should do the trick for today. All right. And yeah, I mean, let's keep it real to start out. GameStop set a 52-week low. It is what it is, right? It's not the most fortunate thing to see, but in my eyes, it's just a perfect example of stock price being disconnected from what a company's actually worth. Of course, it's what I believe to be worth more, and it doesn't mean you necessarily have to think the same thing, although you may. But my point is, if you look at when Ryan Cohen was announced to be CEO, it was right about in here. It's been dropping pretty much ever since. Nothing's fundamentally changed with the company, so the market has negatively reacted to him being appointed CEO. You can think what you want of that information, but that's what the market generally has reacted as, right? So to speak. But, the truth is, in this time period, even since here, like, we've gotten one earnings report that came out in early September, right around here-ish, or was it August? Damn, everything's all lumping together now. But point being, fundamentally, the company hasn't changed, right? Nothing's changed that's caused this price action in particular. So it's not like there's, oh, well, when this happened, everything started going bad, right? The only thing you can point to is Ryan Cohen becoming CEO, but this is the guy that has the most skin in the game in terms of shares owned. He's not being paid anything. He's just running the company straight up on his equity, right? Like, that's what's in it for him. And to me, that's just such a unique situation. And I guess some people are like, oh, well, you should have a CEO. Like, this is ridiculous. They couldn't even find one. I think he thought, you know what? I'm not even going to be able to, like, why would I, like, I'm not going to pay myself for everything I'm doing here and trying to put this all together. Why would I go pay some other executive a ridiculous asking price when I could do it myself? Like, I think it's his Thanos, like, fine, I'll do it myself type of moment. But we'll see, right? I've been saying, tough times create tough leaders, and I would say this is a tough time, but if you look at the fundamentals of the company, they continue to improve. So it's truly a unique story, lots of unique things happening, and overall, just a continued learning experience for myself, and I think tons of other individuals out there. Overall, I'm still confident in the long term. It's going to do what it's going to do in the short term, and that's why I personally don't trade, and I just stick to a long-term viewpoint, because you could just build and build and build with a long-term viewpoint. I mean, that's just my opinion, but let's make sure the stream is tweeted out. I've been trying to figure out the Twitter stuff too, and I learned that when you tweet out the link directly, like if you tweet out the YouTube link directly, Twitter doesn't like that because it's pointing you to be off the app. So that's why usually I'm like, oh, live now, pointing down, and then I tweet the link below it. But today I'm like, let me just tweet the link out anyway, and it doesn't seem like it's grabbing the algorithm. It's only been a few minutes, right? But I just try and look at the details and just not for like, oh, I'm obsessed. Like, I need the maximum amount of likes on my tweet, right? I'm just trying to understand the algorithm better and better decisions to make over time. So yeah, I did get some notes together today. Get some information. I don't have the tablet, so I gotta keep checking the chat on my phone here. But it's all good. Let's go. Jason, thanks for being here. Hope you're doing well. Tetron hype. Tetron hype. That's right. Let's get the alt chat so I don't be missing anything. Oh my god, I went back in this stream like on my phone and I was like, no way, this whole time it hasn't actually been me. It's just been like the the pre-screen. But I don't know if all of you were here last time, but this is the new platform I'm starting to use called Obsidian. Super dope. Still wrapping my head around it, but still just working it all out. Sup, bro? Super blank. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for popping in. Much appreciated. But this Obsidian thing is really cool for note taking and just organizing your ideas and thoughts, because like I could just open a new tab, right? And I start writing stuff, and then I could just click and drag it from here, just drag it right in. Boom. Which I already have cost cutting on the other side there. So I'm going to remove this. So I have cost cutting here. And I need to organize this, and I got to be careful because if I keep saying, "Oh, I'm gonna organize it, I'm gonna organize it," and I keep adding, it's gonna be freaking impossible to sort all this information, right? So I really have to hop on that. Definitely can't be slacking on things like that. Excuse me, because it's one of those things where it's way easier to just set the tone from the beginning, organize from the start, then backtrack and try, oh, where was this? Where did I put that? What was I thinking here, right? So if I really just organize it as I go, not necessarily on stream, but just when I'm putting stuff together on the side. And this infographic you see here, GameStop selling and general administrative costs, is going to be for a Twitter write-up coming in the near future. Just kind of looking at SG&A, what it might look like for the remainder of 2023, what we can expect in 2024. And I have some other information on that. But, just grinding forwards, always just grinding forwards. And something I'm trying to look at more and more now is the cash flow statement. I feel like I really, really got down like the statement of operations and balance sheet, but the cash flow statement would, I guess, be my area of needed like continued improvement. Like I can read it, I understand it, but I want to be able to understand it so well that I can just explain it like off the dome anytime, any aspect of it, right? So I've been trying to take some notes on that. What else do I have here? So, you know, there's just notes on what I'm going to talk about in a few minutes here. So I saw this today though. I quickly wanted to touch on J.P. Morgan Chase processing $1 billion in JPM coin transactions daily, says the bank's global payment head. So I hadn't heard about this previously. Maybe I did and I forgot about it. So this is very interesting. I don't think it's like, oh yeah, it's like our meme coin, like JP Morgan meme coin, right? It's basically how I read this, and you can determine from yourself. I'll quickly go through it here. Is they're using blockchain technology for new capabilities and just solving problems with what they do day to day. Not like, oh, here's this new coin, it's replacing the dollar, it's this magic thing, right? Which is what and the reason I say it like that is I think that's what a lot of people think that aren't involved in crypto and digital assets, right? They're looking at a lot of these different things and like, this is so stupid, this is so silly, but they don't understand it's really about like the blockchain and technology itself. Like that's the underlying thing that gives value, I would say, to like financial institutions to potentially use like crypto networks in the future. Of course, we'll have to see how that all plays out. There's a lot to be determined there. The rumored Bitcoin ETF continues to just be a rumor. With the spot ETF, it hasn't quite come out yet. We have a Bitcoin halving coming up in April 2024. So that should be interesting because historically speaking, Bitcoin's always done well around the time of the halving and the time after. So could we be in for some kind of bull run 24, 25? Potentially. I mean, overall, I personally believe in Bitcoin in the long term because of the supply. Like it's a fixed supply being created at a fixed rate, whereas the dollar is just being created more and more and more and more. So I think it's a true, unique alternative asset class that as more and more people view it as an alternative asset class, it will gain more and more value and just more legitimacy around the world. I think it already has started to, very much so, since the last rally. But every time there is like a big hype cycle for crypto, you have a lot more people that become aware and kind of stick with it, I would say, and just it grows and grows and grows. And in this time, there's a lot of people that believe in crypto in the long term that are accumulating. So when there is a run up, they're not chasing that run up. And then the people that have kind of got out of it start chasing that run up, right? I mean, you can think what you want about all that. And obviously, we'll have to see what the next couple of years brings. And something else I wanted to touch on before I read this is, let's see, a screenshot. Fun fact, gaming accounted for 62% of total Web3 funding in 2022. So that was a $7 billion total. 62% of it went to gaming. So I'm not sure where Immutable got that specifically, but I just thought it was interesting to share. And Web3 gaming, I think it's here to stay. I think it's going to slowly like enter the gaming world in a way maybe we don't quite understand, right? Or maybe we don't quite see exactly how yet, but I think individuals owning their assets, there's no reason you wouldn't want to own your assets within a game. It's just about it being simple, about it still being about the game. Because if it becomes all about the digital assets and just like about like just NFTs, right? Which is what I think the average gamer fears. Like, oh yeah, like screw NFTs. That was a stupid fad, right? I don't want. Why would that be involved in gaming? That's ridiculous. But if it's just about the game and then it's called a digital asset and you get access to it simply anyway, I think it's a totally different story. Like some of my, I don't know if I should call them my biggest fans or my biggest haters that consistently comment like, yeah, like GameStop's trash. NFT, they failed with NFTs. It's all going to crap. It's like, you just don't see it. But that's all right. That's all right. And it's free engagement. I just mute the negative accounts, let them keep engaging on Twitter, YouTube, wherever it may be. I mean, they're just helping me out. So thank you, haters. Thank you. But let's read this article here. JP Morgan executive says the bank's flagship crypto is now processing $1 billion worth of transactions every day. In a new Bloomberg interview, JP Morgan's JPM global head of payments, Takis Georgakopoulos, says that JPM is trying to address the three major problems in the payment sector. We move 10 trillion every day all around the world, and we're always looking at what are the inefficiencies of the current payment systems that we could improve upon. I think there are three major inefficiencies. Inefficiency number one is speed. Blockchain definitely could help with that. There are cutoff times, there are delays in making payments, especially cross-border payments. The second issue is money information moves separately, which makes it hard to reconcile, change, understand, and track. Again, with blockchain, it's all packed up in that transaction. It could be within the data. I mean, I say that very loosely. The specifics of that, especially when being tied to banks, that's something I'd have to do a ton more research on. But I just found this article to be interesting. That's why I wanted to share it. And then number three, money is fungible, whereas our activities are not. So JP Morgan launched the coin in 2020 using Quorum, an open source software project built on top of Ethereum. Years later, Georgakopoulos, right? I hope I'm saying that right. Yeah, Georgakopoulos says that JPM coin is now doing over $1 billion in volume daily within a network of large companies. And so the reason we created the JPM coin, and in general, we are looking at digital currencies, is a way to solve those three issues. What we do with JPM Coin is the institutional side of the solution, working in a permissioned environment with companies that are trusted and trust each other so that they can move money within their ecosystem 24/7. And today we move $1 billion every day through JPM Coin for a number of large companies, including here in Singapore. And, the fact they just randomly mentioned Singapore, that shows me it's an international thing kind of going on. So while maybe the United States is lacking in terms of its crypto regulation and making it more involved in things, I think around the world it's becoming increasingly popular. And again, I don't think it's just like, oh yeah, everyone's just going to suddenly use Bitcoin and that's like the new currency for everything. I think it's a new alternative asset class that's just truly emerging. And when you look at like the grand scale, because if you look at how long gold's existed, right, uh, oil and just various other things, right? There's always been a chart. It always been, oh well, this is how much it costs way back then. With Bitcoin, it's like it didn't even exist before. Was it exactly 2008 or 2009 approximately when it came out? So it truly is still emerging to me. And again, I mostly keep a long-term viewpoint with my investments. So for that reason, I think it's similar to GameStop in the sense like the risk versus reward is worth it in my opinion, because as long as you're just playing Bitcoin itself, right? You're not necessarily playing like a Bitcoin mining stock. You're playing GameStop itself. You're not playing options or something like that. And again, you could do these things if you want. That's fine. To me, that's just trading more so than investing. But when you're playing like Bitcoin itself or GameStop itself for the long term, you can't lose more than what you put in. And in general, with investing, you should never ever invest more than you can afford to lose. That's like the golden rule, right? So you don't lose sleep at night, you don't stress. So when you go with that mentality, and if somehow nothing ever works out, Bitcoin disappears off the face of the earth, GameStop disappears off the face of the earth, it's not like you're in debt, right? You lost what you put in, but you put in what you could afford to lose, right? However, if it does work out, right, on the flip side, with GameStop goes up a lot, they start to succeed, players a hit, they build more Milan, Italy type stores, they just continue to do the right things, improve brick by brick, initiate some shareholder initiatives such as repurchasing shares as they're consistently profitable. They start doing all those things. Bitcoin becomes an alternative asset class. It gains more and more traction worldwide, just more and more general institutional exception, financial world exception, um, not exception, accepted too, I should say. If those things happen, I think the upside versus the downside, it's worth risk versus reward. Like either it's going to work out very well or it won't work out at all, right? But it's not just like, oh, flip a coin and we'll see what happens. It's based upon what I'm seeing with GameStop and Bitcoin, like respectively. I hope that makes sense. But next step in that journey is how you can create a more retail version of that so that you can bring the same efficiency to consumers. And obviously, central bank digital currencies are one way to do it. But also, there's an opportunity for banks to create commercial versions of those deposits that work like deposits. But because they work on a distributed ledger, because they work on digital currencies, they bring the same 24/7 efficiency, the same zero cost, instantaneous transaction, and the same ability to program how the payment takes place. That is the next generation for us in innovation. So, as a whole, what this sounds like to me, and you can let me know if maybe I'm misunderstanding it in some way or you're seeing it in a different light, but how I read this as a whole is that if they're using JPM coin to execute so many transactions, it seems like they'll continue to do that. And since it's their own token and it's really just facilitating things based on what I'm reading here, it sounds like it's really about the blockchain technology, and that's the use case for a company such as JP Morgan, a very, very large bank, right? But blockchain technology is going to have use case for, I think, a lot of different businesses and a lot of different scenarios, and gaming is one of them. But hey, have you talked about the profit from the building sale in Europe? I saw your tweet. You were the first one with the info. Thanks for that. Bat's Revenge, thanks for being here. Hope you're doing well. Web3 is dead for GME. Looks like yesterday the head of product Web3 left. Christopher B. Interesting. Yeah, Bat's Revenge. I don't know. I'm not saying like it's a guaranteed going to work with GameStop player, but I think it's too early to say like, oh, it's not going to work out. I think, part of what they've done in partnering Immutable and just the way things are going, it seems like Web3 gaming is going to be a thing, but how exactly it looks, that's to be determined. But yeah, in regards to the sale on the property in Europe, I was going to get to that, but we could touch on it real quick here. And I appreciate sharing the love in regards to that tweet. I didn't realize that was something that hasn't really been talked about too much. I'd seen it a while back, like I kind of forgot about it. For whatever reason, it just popped in my head last week. And I was like, yeah, let me just tweet it out in case people were, like maybe didn't remember about it or weren't aware. So and this is from page 10 of the Q2 earnings, during the fourth quarter of fiscal 2022, we committed to a plan to sell property in our Europe segment consisting of a warehouse building, land, and other property and equipment with a total net carrying value of $7.1 million as of July 29, 2023. In April 23, the company entered into agreement to sell the warehouse building and land for approximately $13.1 million. The transaction closed in August 2023. So it's going to be reported on Q3 earnings. But by the time, since it closed in August 2023, right? Q2 was up until the end of July. But by the time the report came out, the transaction had closed, but it wasn't being reported in Q2. It's actually going to be reported in Q3 coming up. And initially, the plan was set in place in Q4, but it was closed and finalized as of August 2023. So now it's going to actually be recognized in this Q3 coming up. Let's see, good morning, everyone. Freshmaker, hope you're doing well. It's evening for me, but good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it may be for you. Thanks for being here. Is Tetron LLC's portfolio the next grift? Sarah Dan, thanks for being here. Nope, just sharing what I think, my investment viewpoints. Please don't blindly follow me. I think that's like the worst decision you can make ever. Just blindly following any individual investor. You always got to do your research. You can always have your opinion. We can agree to disagree, right? Like, I'm never trying to say like, oh yeah, the best thing since fire, right? Here it is, OMG, oh my god, gazillion of dollars, it's going there, right? I'm never going to try and do that. I'm just going to keep presenting information as I see it and allow my thoughts out loud to help you build thoughts of your own and just do your own research even further. So Tetron, another thing, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Respect. Always sad but truthful. Good to see you as well. Hope you're doing well also. And everyone's saying hello. So 6 million extra net profit in Q3. Yes, exactly, Bats Revenge. That's absolutely right. So with statement of operations, I believe it's gonna just be recognized on its own line. It might actually be within revenue, but that's just gonna be a straight net profit. So I couldn't tell you exactly how it's gonna look on here because I wonder if maybe it's down here somewhere. Maybe it's after interest income. Maybe it's one-time gain on sale of property. Maybe that's in here. That's possible. So it's also possible though. It's just recognized in net sales, but the cost of sales of it is zero, so it would still impact the bottom line, right? So overall, it's going to impact the bottom line, but we'll have to see where we can identify it when the report comes out. Which kind of leads me to my next point that the interest income for the quarter should be higher, I think, than this 11.6 that we saw for the full year so far, or I guess half a year that's taken place. It's been about 21.3 million. So that's in comparison to paying back only, where was it in here? About 5.4 million. Let me go to the cash flow statement. Yeah, about 5.4 million towards repayment of debt in comparison to the interest income that they received of about 21 million, and that's under cash equivalents. However, marketable securities, when it's a T-bill, it's only worth more at maturity, right? So just very simply put, if it's going to pay $1,000 at maturity and you're accounting for the interest rate, you might pay for like $950 up front. So until it actually matures, it's not going to be recognized as a gain. And where that's coming up, right? Purchase of marketable securities versus proceeds from marketable securities. I'm sorry, proceeds from maturities and sales of marketable securities is right here. So that could also mess with the cash flow statement a little bit. You have to be mindful of that, where at times, if there's suddenly more purchases of marketable securities, right, in the first half of the year, there's been more marketable securities purchased than those that have had proceeds or sales of marketable securities. So with that being the case, this is looking like, oh, it's negative 43 million, the difference of these numbers, but it's really just accounting, right? It's moving from the cash and cash equivalents to the marketable securities section of the balance sheet. And that's where you see here, see the marketable securities in comparison to the last quarter. And then last year, they didn't even have any marketable securities. As interest rates have risen, so has GameStop's, I would say, investment in marketable securities and just cash equivalents are just earning more on their cash. And, some people have said, like, oh, they can't just sit on the cash forever. I agree, because we're in a very inflationary environment. But at the same time, they shouldn't just go throwing it out there like, oh, yeah, this is the best opportunity. Oh, yeah, we got to go all in on that. They have to think sustainable, be prepared for all kinds of scenarios, the possibility of the economy getting worse. So just so many different things to think about, right? And as I always just study the company more, I just start to think about more and more scenarios, right? And I think it's personally just making me more and more intelligent in regards to reading this information and just continuing to learn. What's up, Tetron? White Rabbit? Hope you're doing well. Thanks for popping in. I think there's a lot to be said about what Unreal and NVIDIA are working on with their metaverse visions. GME hardware partners will then be the most beneficial partnerships. It makes sense, I always said. Oh, it definitely makes sense. And we'll have to see, because I'm curious when Player comes out, is it a full rollout? Is it just a part of what they're going to be doing? And then there's going to be more to come. I'm really curious, what it looks like, how they go about it. I feel like there's probably not going to be a release date. It might just be like, oh, here it is. Kind of just like some of the things they've done in the past. But we'll definitely have to see. Other income net would be my guess. Yeah, that makes sense, Bass Revenge. I think you're right. Fundamentally, the company has done nothing but get better and becoming profitable. Then Ryan Cohen literally becomes the actual full-time CEO without even taking pay, proving he's in for the long turnaround, and the stock keeps going down. Shorts are desperate. They know how they're in trouble, trying to get it as low as possible and get ready to close, then change narratives and run it up and going long. Yeah, Jason, unfortunately, as far as I can tell, I don't want to say as far as I can tell, but it's not the first time it's happened before, right? Where Wall Street just trashes on a stock, shorts it all the way down, and then, right, just so coincidentally, when the tides turn, suddenly they have flipped their shorts and gone long, right? So the exact point that happens for GameStop, I couldn't necessarily tell you, but it's not the only company that's ever happened with. There's a lot of situations. I can think of one that's happened more recently. I feel like Palantir for a long time had a lot of negative sentiment around it, right? Where, oh yeah, these contracts, Alex Karp is crazy, blah, 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 right? Getting beat down for a while, and they had a DPO, right? Direct public offering, not an IPO, not initial public offering. So from what I understand about that, I'm not very, very familiar with DPOs, but with a direct public offering, Wall Street didn't really get to buy in initially, right? And look how fast the stock price went up when it first started trading, and it was kind of floating around there, right? So during this time, Wall Street didn't really get involved, and then there was also a lockup period, so maybe some initial investors were kind of hopping out. The sentiment was generally negative, all the way beat down here, right? Beat down. And if you look, a lot of institutions, from what I've seen, suddenly just went long in this little time period here, right? And now look where the stock stands. Not to say, Palantir can't have more troubles in the short term. Not to say it's definitely going to go up a ton in the long term, but I'm just giving you an example of where that's kind of happened. And it's happened, I feel like, on Wall Street for a very long time. And maybe not in that simple way, always with like a direct public offering And GameStop's, I think, a unique situation itself. But generally speaking, there's been so many times where it's like Wall Street goes like really deep into something, like just prop it up, and then they ride the wave down, and then they ride the wave back up. One where I feel like there's a lot of selling pressure right now, and this was like a Wall Street like darling for a while. Enphase Energy, this comes to mind. I mean, I'm not super familiar with this one, but it's a green energy play. The revenue is growing. Seems like margins are growing. Net income's growing, up and up and up, and then suddenly everybody's short, right? Like, look at this, absolutely tanking. I mean, it's not just that black and white. I'm just generally speaking here, but my point is, it's not crazy to think that Wall Street's just pushing GameStop all the way down, riding the wave down, and then push up, gonna ride the wave up, right? Of course, we'll see exactly how that plays out. I couldn't tell you in very particular dates or anything like that, but just to give you an idea. Let's see. GME is so liquid now that it's easy to short and brings the price down. That's a good point, Brayton, and thank you for being here. Yeah, absolutely, because each day there's just not a lot of shares trading. You know, there's more and more shares directly registered. So when you have a liquid stock, it doesn't take a lot of shares to move the price. And then you look at how many shares are available to short. I don't know how that number gets calculated. Like, it's so weird, right? So there's things like that, but in itself, you're right. It's illiquid because there's a lot of people who like the stock. And if you just look at DRS and insiders alone, they own such a large part of the shares outstanding. Then you have to think about all the shares in brokerage accounts that are just not moving day to day. So what's all this volume then? It's ETFs. It's maybe some institutional moves going on day to day. Traders that are trading on like high frequency trades. I mean, it's anybody's guess, right? I think if it was like a big sell-off, like I know Morantz has talked about this, touch on it a little bit, where if it's this big sell-off, like from here to here, and then you just see like a massive increase in volume on the sell-off, it makes sense. But when you don't see that volume to reflect a large movement, it's like, okay, so it doesn't really seem like anybody's selling, right? That doesn't make a lot of sense. So is it just algorithms? Is it just traders? Is it institutions, right? I could leave that up to you to determine. What kind of revenues players supposed to make? Any idea? Skittleman, thank you for being here. I would say definitely not a lot to start out. So I don't have an idea, but I think it's one of those things where they have to just continue to build it out. And if they find success in the platform, in finding success, and once you have the eyeballs, I feel like it's not, I don't want to say easy, but monetizing becomes very possible, and they can explore creative ways to do that, maybe even ultimately creating some of their own games. We'll have to see. So I don't think it's initially going to just, wow, oh my God, their revenue just went up like $1 billion. But it's one of those things where it just gets the ball rolling and gets more GameStop customers as a whole. And whatever direction they're going to take the platform, there'll be methods to, I think, increasing the revenue. But what exactly it'll look like, I couldn't tell you at this time. They will then, after profits, play stupid, like they didn't know it was going to happen, and say Cohen did it, give them all the credit, new narrative will come. Shorts will close GME after rise grow. Yeah, I could see that, Jason. Firms will go long on GameStop S&P 500 dividends, will force as well, share buybacks under 12. How much more is Ryan Cohen allowed to buy? Max 20% or so, right? Yeah, so he's allowed to own up to 20% of the company as far as I'm aware. But in the event that GameStop starts repurchasing shares, right, which the lower the stock price goes, I think more and more likely we begin to see that at some point, especially as we're getting close to single digits. Because you have to remember, they literally have $3.92 of cash equivalents to marketable securities alone, right? So, and those are all earning interest for the time being, but at a certain point, the company might say, okay, well, we're actually better off using the capital to start repurchasing our shares instead of just accumulating interest. Maybe even an event where the Fed cuts rates a little bit. Okay, well, we're not going to earn as much interest on our cash. Maybe we should start repurchasing shares, right? So if GameStop were to go to $4, they can literally start buying shares for the equivalent amount of cash they have, right? I mean, obviously it's not that simple, but the lower it goes, like the cheaper it would be for them to repurchase shares. And I think it would become increasingly impactful if they repurchase shares. Let's see, I was reading swap, but yeah, ETFs and swaps could be a little shorting. Tetron spitting fire right now. Thank you, always sad. I try my best out here. It's crazy with the live streaming. It's like some days, like I'm just like, like it's just like the words are like flying out of my mouth before I could even like have thoughts, but like it makes sense. Whereas other days, I'm like, oh, my brain is not. My brain is moving faster than my mouth. My mouth is moving faster than my brain. I don't know, but yeah, I'm gonna. I guess what I'm saying is I'm gonna have off days. I'm gonna have prime days, but I always appreciate you guys, and I'm always gonna give it my all out here. And really got to keep building this out because this can really keep me organized and just improving and having my information just straight, easy to access when needed. So what was the next things I want to talk about here? Yeah, because it's hard, guys. When I'm at work, like things are popping in my mind, and I'm like scribbling it down, like, oh, I got to talk about this later. Or like when I see an article or something, like, oh, let me write down that name and I can look it up later, or I email it to myself. So it's like I'm trying to really lock it and put my life more in buckets, like focus on work when I'm at work, and then focus on the streaming when I'm at home and my extra time. But sometimes it's like, it's kind of all like spilling over each other. But let's see here. So, oh yes, cash flow. Okay, this is where I wanted to go tonight. So again, I'm not going to go through all this too much because it's, again, pretty much a mess right now, but just with some general info. So business priorities, I'll quickly touch on this, then we're going to go to the cash flow statement. So business priorities slightly changed. This is Q1s versus Q2. Just ever so slightly changed, but sustaining a superior customer experience, seamless in store. Where was it? Ensuring the company's costs are sustainable relative to revenue, including taking steps to optimize our workforce to operate efficiently and nimbly. Ensuring the company's cost structure is sustainable relative to revenue, including takes efficiently and nimbly. Same thing. I thought I was reading something last time that was slightly different. But the three overarching goals remain the same: the establishing an omnichannel retail experience, achieving profitability, and leveraging brand equity to support growth. We're taking the following steps, which includes significant cost containment. Oh yeah, so that's where they slightly changed it. Cost containment, that's very specific and kind of goes in line with Ryan Cohen's letter that he wrote when he first became CEO. And all of this is great, right? But it's really about execution and seeing things take place. So when I look at, okay, Q2 for 23, the balance sheet here, I want to get to the cash flow statement. So obviously we've seen, year over year, if you look at Q2 23 versus Q2 22, almost a net profit here, right? They just had a slight net loss. They lost 1 cent per share in the most recent quarter. For the same quarter last year, they lost 36 cents per share, or 108 million on the bottom line. And then if you look at the full year so far, we're about halfway through, right? Or halfway through in terms of what's been reported, because Q3 is now closed up, but it's not going to be reported until pretty much like the first or second week of December. So we'll have to see what happens there. But when you look at 6 months of this year versus the first 6 months of last year, we already have like an over $200 million swing on the bottom line. And then when you move on to the cash flow statement, you have other improvements, right? When you look at accounts payable and accrued liabilities. So for GameStop, from what I understand, that's mostly rent and just things that are prepaid. So they set it up where they paid for a lot less things in the first half of this year versus the first half of last year, and they had more receivables. So I don't know if that was something they potentially did where they were earning more revenue a little bit later, whereas it was like predetermined and then it's recognized over time. And then with the inventory, so inventory, there wasn't much change, right? And last year there was change. So with inventory, a positive number means inventory increased, right? Because they have to subtract it. So in doing that, they were buying more inventory last year. This year, they're keeping inventory about the same. And then capital expenditures, another line I wanted to touch on right here. Again, a little bit lower than last year, and that's maintaining long-term assets such as property, equipment, things that are intangible, right? So maybe something that's a label maker for when they're shipping the products out of the warehouses, right? Like that's the kind of thing that's included in there. And that kind of goes a little bit deeper into, the idea of, oh, they're cutting costs. But while this isn't like anything like, wow, oh my goodness, you can just kind of see them just making those slight changes. And if you're making those slight changes like all around the business, I really think it go the long way. And again, they have to execute, right? It all comes down to execution. But it's like the small things like that I'm kind of seeing. Then, oh, I'm sorry. So, yeah, guys, feeling off today. Wow, it was a fun weekend, but it was one of those weekends where it was too much fun at times, and when you just do so much in a weekend where you don't even feel refreshed when Monday comes because you're just running around too much. Like I had parties Friday, Saturday, a bunch of family stuff going on yesterday. So man, I'm just like, my brain is like scrambled eggs right now. But let's hit the chat again. I feel like I'm totally rambling. Oh, my buddy Adam. Adam, coming to join. Adam, you love me, man. You absolutely love me. Good evening, GME fans. Do you think Q3 will be profitable? I think it could be, Bats. I think it really could be. Obviously, we'll have to see. But they're going to have that one-time $6 million gain. And on top of it, they continue to just improve operations. So we'll have to see, right? We'll have to see, but I don't think it's impossible. Why don't you guys buy more then? My friends think I'm delusional over GME and its potential. All I do is buy and hold. 32 average. What's yours? James, honestly, I couldn't tell you my exact average. Just multiple shares and accounts. Computer share doesn't make it easy to see your average, so it's hard to say. Why don't you? I remember selling some short at 32. Thank you for buying off me. I'm a short seller. I'm wondering why you guys don't buy more since Cetron is so compelling. Adam, I'm not a salesman. I don't know why you always say that. You need attention to ATM? Because market's closed. I do. I lack friends. I only have money to keep me company when the market's closed. I also got a bunch of GME shares to sell. Adam, I do give you credit. You're a good troll. You're definitely a good troll, but you're literally helping me so much. Like you're always giving me so much engagement, like on Twitter, YouTube. Like why do I live friend free in your head like this? I don't know what I did to deserve this, but I'm truly honored, my friend. That you're selling the dream in GME. We have an entered amidst. Red alert, red alert. Yeah, no, Brayton. Adam absolutely loves me. Like, I literally live rent free in his head, and I don't know why. Like, I don't know what I did to deserve this title. He's in my Twitter, he's on my YouTube. Like, he used to be in my DMs all the time. Like, he just loves me. I don't know. But I guess I'm a lovable guy. What can I say? So, yeah, let's circle back here. So, you could see SG&A costs continue to be cut. So, for 2023, so far, this is the lowest in the past 5 years, the Q1, and same for Q2. Ideally, Q3, if we could see this number again in about the 320s range, I think that'd be really nice. And if we could see Q4, it's most likely going to be higher just because of the nature of the quarter and just more spending taking place. You have your seasonal employees mixed in there. So we could see that number maybe like 400 million, but altogether that would still be a significant improvement, right? Because if we pull up a quick calculator, like let's just completely do a guesstimate here. Because if we do 345.7 plus 322.5 plus, let's say we do about another 320 in SG&A this quarter, the next one it was like 400. Looking at just under 1.4 billion. That's a pretty large decrease from the year before. That's almost 300 billion less, right? Because it's almost it'd be going from almost 1.7 to almost 1.4 billion in terms of SG&A. And of course, Ryan Cohen's at the helm of things now. So one of the things in his memo was, I expect you to treat company money like your own. And I think you can really put that in place when you're the one there. And not to say it's just that simple where it's like, oh yeah, everyone will just blindly do that because Ryan Cohen said so. Yay, it's all perfect, right? That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is if they continue to do the right things and they continue to shift the culture from within, they're at the point where they're just teetering on the edge of profitability. You just have to do a few more things right and they can be consistently profitable. I mean, obviously, they have to continue to do things right and just look to grow, but that's where it starts, right? And in turning a consistent profit, if you're turning a consistent profit and you keep cash flow positive, then you can just begin to initiate shareholder incentives such as repurchasing shares. And when you have a share price that keeps declining, then share repurchases are just going to become more and more effective when they do come into play. In my opinion, it's just a matter of when. And I think the company wants to be consistently profitable and just absolutely executing before they're repurchasing shares. And also, if I'm the company viewing the stock constantly being attacked, then I'm like, okay, I'll repurchase shares when the share price is low. Why would we rush into repurchasing shares? Not to kick the hornet's nest here if there's any BB wires, but with Bed Bath & Beyond, one of the things they did was they were repurchasing shares in the teens, right? Which at the time seemed good. And then they started issuing shares when they were right near bankruptcy, pretty much because they had no choice. And when you look at that, you're like, huh. So you were issuing shares at $17, $18, $19 a share. Or sorry, repurchasing shares, $17, $18, $19, $20 a share. And then you start issuing shares at $5 a piece. That doesn't make a lot of sense. In GameStop's case, right after the January 2021 hype, they issue shares and were able to pay off all their debt, and now that's why they have the strong balance sheet that they do, and they have that very, very limited amount of debt at a 1% interest rate because they were able to issue shares at a high price point, clean things up, and give themselves the opportunity that they have now. So without the run-up of January 2021, we're in a completely different spot because that initial hype and everything that took place there propelled the stock price so much higher. And at that point, they're able to raise capital and completely restructure things because they had a lot of bad debt, a lot of high interest rate debt, right? And just a tough situation overall. Of course, Ryan Cohen was beginning to get involved, and I would have to believe he had a plan in place prior to everything that took place. But it's also, in my opinion, like a good example of good management, right? They saw the opportunity and they pivoted when necessary. And in terms of the GameStop wallet, people say, oh, it's bearish. They came out with it and they got rid of it. Yes, I could see why you'd go, okay, well, they created this whole product and then they scrapped it. But that's part of a turnaround, right? There's going to be trial and error. And in a situation where the SEC is being the way it is with digital assets and the just potential of a court case of any kind would not be ideal for GameStop. It's just going to lead to a lot of legal fees and just a lot of spending. So I think if they thought there's any possibility with that, that might be part of the reason of the wind down of the wallet. And also maybe with Player, there's going to be a simple way for people to be logging in. I know somebody's talked about, a couple people mentioned in the chat about Mutable like Passport, and these things are all starting to come to fruition, but it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of trial and error. So if GameStop's executing on trial and error while spending limitedly, I think that can go a long way for them. And that's part of what's happening with Player. That's part of what's happened with the NFT marketplace, with the GameStop wallet. It's them spending, trying to get involved in new segments, but not just putting all of the company's capital into it, right? So they're cutting costs, they're still managing things, but they're still trying new things at the same time. And to me, that takes a good management team in order to execute on that. And again, not saying it's going to be perfectly easy and just, oh yeah, no problemo, like GameStop turnaround. There's challenges ahead. And to me, they're continuing to work through the challenges. And maybe people thought it would have been profitable sooner, right? I thought maybe at times it would have looked a little bit better than it did initially. I mean, a little bit better now at this point in time. I would have thought like a little while back, but at the same time, I've learned so much. I see what's taking place. I see what I think can continue to take place, and just continue to learn as a whole, and just see where the company goes because it's quite a journey, and that's what investing is all about. Let's see. You were saying, would you happen to know when our repayments were? I think the Micromania French loan is only debt repayment again. Yes, no, yeah, exactly. Always sad. It is only the French government loans. It's extremely low. It's literally 1%. And then Adam is getting, yeah, not James. I live rent free at Adam's head. I don't know what I did to deserve it. Me, Ken, and Gabe pickleball together. Adam, are you in the movie or you're in Dumb Money? Good luck. I'm off to chicken dinner. All right, buddy. 25% cost cut, hypothetically, since 2019. That's substantial. It absolutely is. Always sad. It absolutely is. Tetra, could you explain what G America is and when it'll release? Thanks. Skittleman. So as of now, it just appears to be an NFT project. There's some speculation that it's going to be a game. It's going to be something more than just like digital assets, but as of now, it seems like it will be. I think it's going to tie into player in some shape or form, but the truth is, like, it's still to be determined. I know there's some ideas originally. It's like, is it going to become this super platform that's going to compete with Amazon? I don't necessarily think that's the case. Right now, I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm not too sure what it's going to be. We're going to have to see. Dakota, hello, gang. Sorry I'm late. It's all good. Thanks for popping in. Glad to see you here. What if we reach full year profitability only by cutting costs and one-time only events? Zelda, sell from property. Let's be honest, that's not sustainable long term. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Bats Revenge. It's going to take more than that. I think those things are short-term boosts, but they have to keep just doing the right things, right, and take advantage when those short-term things happen, but keep a long-term mindset in mind, and that's why I have to cut costs for future execution, right? So they have to just operate a little bit better. They have to potentially, I don't want this to be the case, but they have to potentially close more stores, right? If said property or said location is just in a mall that's deteriorating, that's going to be tough for GameStop to continue operating, right? And then they could just shift more e-commerce efforts in that area, or ideally people go to another store in the area. So it's not that simple, but there may be a situation, especially with rent potentially rising, right, just due to the general high interest rate environment, where they have to shut down a few more stores. And while I don't want to see revenue decrease, if it means margin, like, I think margins are more important than revenue right now for the company. So as long as they're focusing on that, once you have consistent net profitability, you could just keep slowly trying things until the right things work out with player or whatever it may be to drive forwards. And because if you're consistently profitable, then you can be repurchasing shares and just managing your balance sheet and just keep trying to pivot and get to that next step type of thing. Let's see. That's why we need player and Web3 gaming. Is there an insider lockup period on CEOs and board members who have to do a buyback, or is it just pump and dump? I'm not too sure off the top of my head, Dakota. That's a good question. I'd have to check on that. And you would have to think, right, with the fact that Larry Chang, Ryan Cohen have bought shares well above the price point we're at, that it must at least be on their mind purchasing shares at this level. Will they actually? That'll have to be determined. You can never truly know, but the truth is, if they like the stock at 20, they must love the stock at 12 or 13, right? But it's just a matter of if they want to buy or not. And obviously, there's things we don't know behind the scenes. So, but I'm just saying it's not impossible. Spider-Man 2 did well. Can't think of any other major titles in Q3. Yeah, Calvin, Spider-Man 2 seems pretty dope. I low-key want to try that. Yes, G-America will happen in longer term, all in one shop, in my honest opinion. It could, Jason. Yeah, it absolutely could. We'll have to see. There's more to come. Like I kind of said, it seems like just an NFT type project thing that GameStop created, but it's not guaranteed that, right? Like, it could be more. And I would think it's going to be more, but it's just a question of maybe how much more and when. Crazy how cheap GME is. Yeah, Connor, it absolutely is. Yeah. Oh yeah, Super Mario Wonder. That's a good point. Yeah, it's crazy, and again, I think it's just a journey. It really is a journey. Like, investing is that, and this is why you don't invest more than you can afford to lose, because as like okay. To clarify, so I say, oh, you don't invest more, you can lose. Don't invest more, you lose. But like most people, right? They don't just have 10,000 in their bank, and they're like, I'm just gonna invest it all at once, and then, oh, I don't have any more money coming in. When you invest what you can afford to lose, like if you have an expendable extra $100, right, and you're putting it into GameStop every week, every month, whatever it may be, because it's your extra after paying your bills and budgeting yourself and everything. In just doing that amount, that to me is like not more than you can afford to lose. And in setting up that structure with yourself, as the share price has declined, if you had that mindset and that structure, you then have the ability to consistently buy shares with that expendable $150, $200, whatever it is that you have each week left over that you're choosing to invest in it. When you're having that mindset, you're not going down the route of like, I have to get everything in there. I have to get everything in there. I have to get everything in there. Because then you're just stressing yourself out and just pouring. Maybe you can only afford to put 100 a week, but then you start putting 200, 200, 200. And then you're like, oh my God, now I'm stressed. Like, oh, my money's in this. It's not working out. It's going down. Oh my God, oh my God. Whereas if you just stick with that original 100, you could do that consistently over time. I don't know if I explained that in the best way, but in not investing more than you can afford to lose in general, right? Of anything at all, it keeps your mind from starting to trick you, like, oh, what if this, what if that, right? And that can still happen because that's just human psychology. But when you're structuring yourself in a way where it's like you're not going to have to worry about getting the bread and milk because you've overextended yourself, right? And that could be beyond investing, right? That could be somebody who goes to the bar and spends all their money on drinks for going nuts over the weekend, or people who over vacation. Oh, I need a vacation. I need a vacation. And they go spend a ridiculous amount that they can't afford to spend, right? So it doesn't just apply to investing; it applies to like life in general. So I mean, that's my viewpoint on it. I hope that makes sense. Let's see, Tetron, that one clip. View that clip for the past 2 weeks. Morant's played it. I have to say, ask you to view. Internet, why matters to GameStop? 3 minutes. Okay, I got you. Other thing, I got you. I'm gonna check it out later. Tetron, are you paying attention to tokenized FTX supposed one-to-one thing? The scam, bank run, fraud in court. At least it's interesting. No, Dakota, I haven't checked on it in a while. I remember a while back I was looking at it like here and there, the GameStop token like on FTT. So I have to check on that again. Yeah, Instinet is Citadel. No one knows Jason since it's a dark pool. It is. It's unregulated. Citadel Connect ATS was Instinet. Citadel Connect is what you need to look into, Jason. No, it wasn't. Okay, gee, it's just weird. Second sketchy savings account that isn't a different every time I look at it. It is weird, yeah, because it's like FTX is weird in itself. The whole situation. It's like, what the heck truly happened there, right? I feel like there's so much we still don't know, and it's just slowly starting to kind of make sense. So maybe we'll know more one day. But yeah, I agree. It's weird, but it's one of those like it could be a nothing burger, but it could also be like, oh my goodness, this is really weird, and wow, that's why this is weird one day. Keep driving your channel. Thank you, thank you. Back me. Let's see what's the time I'm looking at for Q3 earnings. So Ryan, it looks like they're gonna come out about beginning of December. Not grinding a channel. I didn't want to make that video. Nice, Jason. Thank you. I'm a Redditor, not a YouTuber. I hate YouTube. No, it's all good. Yeah, no, everybody's got their thing. That's kind of one of the dopest parts to me about just individuals that like GameStop. Everybody has their own thing. Some people are the meme. Someone's the meme guy or gal, right? And then someone's the Reddit person. Like I'm a YouTube guy, right? Or a Twitter guy, or whatever you want to see me as, right? But everyone kind of has these unique spots. You have a lot of people doing a lot of digital art, and there's just so many different people doing their own thing, which I just think is pretty dope. But damn, guys, I don't know why I just feel so like off today. Like it was just like a long weekend, and I don't know why my brain just feels like scrambled eggs. But I feel like there's a couple more things I want to touch on, and now I can't find where I'd put them. Something I did see today is that the Russell. This just popped in my mind that the Russell 2000 is at a low. Let's see. And I saw. What was it? XRT. That ETF is still like extremely shorted, which is like, huh, that's funny how that works, right? Let's see. So yeah, the Russell, it looks like, yeah, it's at the lowest point since 2020. I mean, it's kind of been in no man's land. So it's just generally speaking, like smaller cap stocks, just to kind of give you an idea that there's a lot of names I would say also falling, not just GameStop. I mean, obviously it's not that black and white. But then we also have the mid cap, right? Because GameStop's in there, SP 400. This is just absolutely taking a beating the second half of this year. Straight down. It's crazy. 5 years kind of been sideways. And it's so bizarre to me that we're in a market now where when you look at the S&P 500 and you just take out the top 7 names, it's like, wow, it's really not doing that well now, is it? Or wow, it's incredibly heavily weighted through just a few names. Like, how does that happen? I mean, you know how it happens. It's just continuous accumulation by those companies and just in continuous growth in size. Like Apple's at $2.66 trillion. It's just insane. And what are they at? 62 billion in cash, 100 billion in debt. And you look at a name like Microsoft, they're well over 2 trillion at this point. 2.5, excuse me. see how much cash they're at. 143 billion in cash, even more than Apple. Insane, 100 billion in cash flow, absolutely nuts. And it's just crazy that that's how heavily it's weighted. Let's see. I'm out. I said 3 times to do it. Well, no, yeah, another thing. I got you. I'm gonna check. Can you check the chart for October 22 until Q3 earnings? The thing is, another thing. Like, I don't want to. I can't just pull up like random things because then, like, I just want to present like what I have open in the tabs. Like, I gotta remember to pull it up before the stream starts because I don't want to start like just googling like stuff out and whatnot just on the live. Um, but yeah, Red's put your channel vids if you really. I didn't even know to Tetron the man. Thank you, Jason. Yeah, guys, I'm so freaking burnt out right now. I think I do have to wrap it up because what I'm really trying to commit is like quality streams, like quality videos, like quality Twitter posts because I could ramble all day, right? And if it's not a good product I'm putting out, and my product, right, is myself, my content, so I want to keep it at like a high quality, and I'm just gonna keep grinding brick by brick, just like GameStop, and just looking at markets as a whole. It's a fascinating world out there. It's a fascinating world. The more you read, the more you know, the more it's like, wow. And also, just one other quick thing. Touched on this in the past, but GameStop launched this 2 terabyte hard drive. Can we see them do more stuff like this as a potential way to grow? Potentially. But X Chewy, Alan Adel, Larry Chang. And yeah, I really gotta, that's what I'm gonna make tonight's mission. Organizing this, because I think I can start a new canvas. See, like, no. Open graph view. Create new canvas. See, then I can set it from the start. Let's see, it's pretty dope because you can just infinitely zoom out. This thing's called Obsidian, if anybody's curious. So like, I gotta really put like all the Web3. I have to have like a Web3 section, or maybe I'll even do multiple canvases. I'm kind of thinking like I made this like the GameStop core, just dumping everything in there originally. Because when I found this, I'm like, whoa, you could do arrows and text and images, and like there's even a way to embed videos. And it's like an open source type of thing, so you can even like back up the files. These are all Notepad files in themselves, I'm pretty sure, for whenever I'm writing stuff. And on top of it, it has like Prezi type functions. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. I used to use that in school where it would like jump from thing to thing. Like you can zoom in here, then it will like follow the arrows, then it'll like zoom out, and then it'll zoom in to the next slide. It was like a fancy PowerPoint at its time, but this is like on a whole new level. But yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it there for today. I'm gonna come back strong Wednesday. I'm gonna organize this, organize my ideas, and just keep driving forward. Touch on your passions, what people like about you. Thank you, another thing. Thank you. I just try and keep it real. I really just always trying to keep it real, and I appreciate that comment. Thank you. Thanks for all you do. Great community here too. Yes, absolutely. Buddy, I forwarded your vids. I always enjoy your videos, Tetron. Thank you, Brayden. Thank you. I gotta start doing them again. It's one of those like I've got out of the momentum of doing them, so like not that I've lost my touch or something, but I feel like I used to be able to just like whip out my phone, like just go for a walk, and it was like no problemo. Now I'm like, all right, I gotta get these ideas, gotta get this, gotta get that. So it's like you gotta plan it, right? Because you want it to be good. But it's also like if you plan too much, then you start getting in your head and like you start doing so many takes, and like it's like anything else, repetition just makes you better. But yeah, no, I appreciate you guys so much. Sorry I'm out of gas today. Not gonna lie, it was a fun weekend, so that's kind of on me for going a little too hard. But at the same time, it was worth it. It's a solid weekend. We got some great people in my life. Gotta spend the most time you can with them. It's always about that, right? You gotta spend the most time you can with your loved ones and friends, family, everybody. Like I think that's so important. So yeah, I'll leave it there for today. I'm gonna come back more stronger on Wednesday because I just literally like scrambled eggs right now. That's what my brain feels like. It's crazy. But also, I've just been doing more work, so maybe that's part of it too. And I'm getting some opportunities to kind of do some more stuff in my job and just better my career and just keep bettering myself as a person. I'm not perfect, that's the thing I think you can remember too. You go, oh, this guy, like, he's doing all this. Oh my gosh, like, I'm not perfect. You know what I mean? Like, 'cause it's like, yeah, I can do research. I can continue to improve, but like I'm always and like no matter how much I improve, like I'm always gonna have a misstep at some point, a mistake. But it's about just continuing to move forward than just, oh yeah, I always got to be perfect, right? So yeah, I'm completely rambling, so I'm gonna leave it there. But thank you for the stream today. See you soon. Family's most important. No one expects perfection. Just be truthful. Yeah, that's the way. That's the way. Another thing. Absolutely, you're right. You're right. Truth. The truth is key, and just being genuine and like trying to always do that for guys in this channel. I got you. What's an asset transfer specialist? Oh, September. Pretty much like just transferring. Like I work in the transfers department for my company, so that's really pretty much it. And it's just like a fancy title, but I'm doing some more stuff from within. Like I'm starting to do like the Roth conversions, and pretty much there's a lot of like behind the scenes work that has to do with that because there's like the IRS reporting behind it and stuff like that. So yeah, but actually gonna leave it there now, and then I'll come back. But really appreciate all of you guys, and I hope you have a good night.